Shalom Israel. First and foremost, I do need to give all praises, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakakdash, to belong to the apostles, and else great millstone for teaching us this truth. Peace and blessings to the whole collective of Israel. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father in Hebrew, by Hashem is the name, and Yahweh Shai is the name of the begotten Son. Background lesson, and as you see within the title, we're going to be going to these genetically modified ticks that are on the loose, that were let loose. And this is, to no surprise, but you have people are now, beginning to have talks on these, ticks that have been pretty much being spotted everywhere, especially speaking with the Lone Star tick, which, affects, what you eat, dealing with meat. And it's not the first time that something like this has been, let loose. Because I remember making a lesson a while back, 4 years ago, dealing with these genetically modified mosquitoes. Mosquitoes that were, cooked up within these labs, and that were let loose. So this is, nothing new, pretty much. As in terms of, the things, this devil does. Because this was, something he did before. But now you're seeing it with mosquitoes, which I actually just came across a video earlier. So that's the spirit that I'm going to now, because there's one video where you had these moose that were, I believe, over 3 moose were taken out from these ticks. So you can also see how this will affect, food. You're dealing with cows and various other, types of animals. As you're especially seeing with the haunted V, dealing with this pestilence, this plague, the Lord is letting out upon this place. We have to see, how exactly, this would play out. Because once this devil has been alluded to something worse than what took place back in 2020. So this could be it. It could be something else, we have to see. But just dealing with these, this lesson, going to the title, these genetically modified ticks. Because you do have these devils who will do these things within these labs that will genetically splice things together in order to create something, in order to, especially dealing with these, these diseases. Now, usually you have animals that will contract, certain diseases that are only, transmissible to animals. But now you're starting to see those things begin to transfer to humans. So this devil is most definitely, at work, which we're going to get, throughout a couple of these videos, because really this devil wants to take you out, and I believe that was one of the main points I especially went into, dealing with those mosquitoes that were, let loose, that were able to carry, certain diseases. So how much more of these ticks? But let's play these 3 quick videos that I got, and I'll get into these scripts at hand. Lord's will let us be edifying. And I actually was made a post yesterday, just to also throw this in there, but it didn't post until today, so I thought that was weird. But let's continue on.
They're using ticks as bioweapons. This is Plum Island, where they're genetically modifying ticks and other animals to release them upon us as bioweapons. It's no surprise.
Now, still another point, you have this devil has been wanting to depop, this place, take people out.
That Lyme, Connecticut is extremely close to Plum Island, okay? They're genetically modifying these diseases on this island and bringing them to the mainlands. Lyme disease and alpha-gal right now are one of the most prevalent tick-borne illnesses, and it's no surprise that Bill Gates is funding a lab-grown meat that does not affect alpha-gal.
And hey, there you go. And it's something we have been especially speaking on, through spent by Yahweh Shai, starting with the apostles and else on down. This is something this devil has been especially, heavily pushing towards, dealing with 3D printed meat, lab-grown meat, to replace, all these, other foods, which you are seeing, heavily being affected via these diseases. These, as you had a while back, dealing with the bird, FLU, that was affecting the food at one particular point. That could still, reoccur, come back even harder. You wait to see. But what this devil really wants you to rely upon him. This is why you go into order out of chaos. This devil will purposely cause problems in order to then implement the solution. Because you're going to have people looking for things to get better, for solutions, to the problem that's at hand. And you're going to have the devil swooping as that so-called hero. oh, you're affected by, you can't eat, eat meat anymore. You can't eat this. You can't eat that. Well, I got the solution for you. Here, eat this.
B, he is funding research to create a vaccine for Lyme disease. So here he is again, creating the problem, creating the solution.
Hey, that's the spirit. You haven't even finished this video. I only seen the first couple seconds, so that's the spirit right there. What's in order out of chaos? This devil will purposely cause problems, have his hand in a lot of these situations that you see, and then swoop in as a so-called hero with the solution to solve the problem that he started. This is why this devil needs to be taken out, man.
And profiting on both ends. They're
all in order to fulfill his plans and things he's wanting to do. It's plain. That's why you get 2 Corinthians 2:11. How we're not ignorant in Satan's devices. So once then you see him now funding this particular project, which people are especially saying he's behind this whole tick thing. Well, going back a while back, he was dealing with these mosquitoes. But now you have people beginning to question things now. This devil's being revealed.
Farmers and hunters have reported finding boxes of Lone Star ticks across their properties. They move 3 times faster than the average tick, and it carries a substance called alpha-gal. Shortly after you've been bitten, you get what's called alpha-gal syndrome, which makes you permanently allergic to all red meat. In 2009, there was only a few dozen cases. And in 2026, the CDC announced we have around 450,000 cases. It's a 100x increase since 2013. Now, mainstream news is telling you this increase is from climate change and rising deer populations, but I don't know if that's the truth. Recent tick bite ER visits are off the charts. Now, this is where it starts becoming suspicious. Bill Gates has funded research into a bio company named Oxitec to genetically modify ticks. Another...
I mean, come on, it's clear. But you're gonna still have people, questioning us, questioning these things. Oh, you're crazy. They wouldn't do that. It's Bill Gates. Come on, man. You wouldn't do that. But it's also like it was in the scripture how the trust in the shadow of Egypt shall be your confusion. Shall be your shame and confusion. This devil wants to take you out. And he's going to do everything he can in order to do so. That's why you're seeing, chemicals being shot to the sky. These poisons in the air. To break down your body, make you more susceptible and weaker to their attacks. All this crap within the food, within the water. This devil needs to go.
Connection is that he is heavily invested in plant-based meat.
And we're saying now this is going to affect a lot of people, which I believe he made a point where 450,000 cases, probably a whole lot more now because there's a lot of videos coming out of people recording. Giving reports, on these ticks and how it's affecting a lot of things. And that's, right here where you can't eat red meat. And now, coincidence, Bill Gates, heavily working towards, genetically, or it's like, lab-grown 3D printed meat.
Companies called Impossible.
So all in order to fulfill their plans. Which in order out of chaos. You start the problem, then you bring it a solution.
Food and nature's find. This would force everyone that has alpha-gal syndrome and wanted their red meat fix to buy his product. In a published peer-reviewed bioethics journal, they argue we should genetically engineer ticks to make people allergic to meat. In the article it says, we argue that if eating meat is morally impermissible, then efforts to prevent the spread of tick-borne AGS are also morally impermissible. Then right below it says, tick-borne AGS is a moral bioenhancer if and when it motivates people to stop eating meat. And at the top of the article it says, beneficial blood-sucking. Also, here is a World Economic Forum linked bioethicist, and he calls for genetically modifying humans to induce meat intolerance.
So for example, I have milk intolerance, and some people are intolerant to crayfish.
And I believe I have another video of this right here. Maybe the same video, but I was going to get another point to add on to this.
So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you'll become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanism. So that's something that we can do through human engineering.
I mean, look at this. Outright telling you of what they're wanting to do.
Can kind of possibly address really big world problems through human engineering.
Here's a map of all the hot spots that these Lone Star ticks reside in, and it's mainly in the southeast regions. So if you know anyone in these specific areas that have land, wilderness, ask them about the tick increase, and I guarantee you they'll tell you that it's more than they've seen in previous years. This isn't anything new. The CIA has declassified documents that they weaponized and released infected ticks over sugar fields in Cuba back in the day under President Kennedy. You also have Plum Island, which was a top secret animal biological warfare lab, which is where Lyme disease came out of in the 70s. From what I've read, these ticks don't like lavender, peppermint, and a synthetic insecticide called permethrin. Farmers and hunters.
There you go. AIDS Devil's being revealed, man. Let's see where it says, if everyone is allergic to red meat, farmers will struggle financially. They will have to sell their farms. Data centers will take their place. But you can see how this will heavily affect, people, which now they're now unable to, eat meat. And Wilson still has been, heavily pushing towards, doing away with these things, which you have been seeing, dealing with the bird FLU. Even, surrounding that situation, you had, I believe, a chicken farm, went up in a blaze, in a great fire. I believe that led up to, millions of chickens. I forgot the exact number. It was a lot, ended up, being dead. So you've also seen the bird FLU affect cows and all these, other animals, which are obviously going to affect the food. And now you're seeing this tick increase, which are carrying, particular diseases and whatever else they may carry and are set to carry, because once they're being let loose, they're genetically modified. And they pretty much just told you their plans. So we could do this to lessen people to eat meat, to want to eat meat. And which I made that point earlier, that they have been wanting to depop this place for a good while now. And you can look at the various ways that was doing that. Trying to see if there's anything else. So this is a Bill Gates tick. This 1,000,000%, however many zeros this says percent, a bioweapon. So we just had our first reported case in Australia. A 23-year-old healthy male died on a camping trip with friends after eating meat. And now they're going to, swoop with the so-called solution. Oh, if you're not able to eat meat, we can, choose this to replace that. It's healthy, it's better, it's for your benefit. Pushing this in the name of so-called security, safety, convenience. Wasn't you swooping with that so-called solution? And this is the other video to go along with it.
Which is right? And if they were to cut down on their consumption on meat, it would actually really help the planet. But people are not willing to give up meat. So possibly we can use...
So it says people are unwilling to give up meat, so we're going to do this to make you give up on it.
Human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick.
And so with that, now they're going to be pushing 3D printed meat, lab grown chicken. I believe there was a lesson I made dealing with that. And you can see other examples, even dealing with lettuce. They put some in the water and they twist it and form it into a cabbage, and all that's going to replace the things that people that have now lost, or that have lost due to the capabilities of eating these particular things.
Or if it bites you, you will become allergic to meat. So
Now you're going to be eating their bull crap.
that's something that we can do through human engineering.
You can imagine the type of stuff that was going to put within those things. Even dealing with the food now. Genetically modified and doesn't carry the nutrients your body needs, and hey, we need the Lord. So we're literally omnivores. What is he on about? Let's see. But that's pretty much the point right there. See what this person says. Says it's the ticks. Bill Gates has been funding research into biotechnology, which got within those two videos. Dealing with that research that he's funding and heavily pushing towards, and to no surprise, he's also within the lab-grown meat and chicken, 3D printed meat industry. So I mean, come on. So into biotechnology that uses ticks, claiming they kill livestock parasites. But what if these ticks were to give you this syndrome, and then you wouldn't be able to eat real meat anymore, which you already see, affecting a lot of people already. And we just got that other comment. You're not sure, the validity of it, but he said someone over there in Australia was taken out from it. He says, well, Bill Gates is also heavily funded in the lab-grown meat, upside, beyond meat, etc. He is literally actively trying to fund his pockets for our health, like always, though, right? But there you go. Continue the scriptures. Shouldn't be too long, but Revelation 12:12 says, therefore rejoice, you haven't seen these, doing them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is coming to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he had but a short time. So the devil knows his time is ticking, his time's running out. And that's why you see him rushing to implement his plans and put them into action as fast as possible. And that's why you have, this devil now being revealed for his works. Things he has done, things he's doing now. Because back then, when you speak on things like this, genetically modified, mosquitoes and animals and these particular bugs, they call you crazy. But now people are starting to raise their eyebrows, starting to question the matter at hand, which the prophets have been going into for years, starting with the apostles and elders and down. One time I made a lesson, I want to say it was 5 years ago, dealing with these genetically modified mosquitoes that were let loose, that were carrying these various particular diseases. And we're seeing that now, no surprise, you're all seeing it with ticks. And whatever else this devil may be cooking up within these labs. We're seeing they have a whole island, doing research over there, experimenting. And we're speaking of Esau, Emer, the wicked the Bible speaks of. So obviously nothing good is happening, and that is just I guess public information now. But now imagine what they're doing behind the scenes, things that you actually are unable to get your information on. This is Psalm 17:13. That's one of the scriptures I wanted to grab. It says, arise, the Lord, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked. Who is that wicked? Malachi 1:4 goes to Esau, being labeled, being called the border of wickedness. And it says, which is thy sword. So it says, hide me from the wicked. Let's get that one more time. It says, arise, Lord, disappoint him, cast him down. Deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. And the Lord's going to be swinging him as that sword. Using this devil to do particular things. So we know this devil has his hand in a lot of these situations that you see today. As you saw back with the 19, back in 2020. And as you've seen in record time, they came out with the juice, the concoction to get people to take, which we warned of to stay far away from, and look what happened. What ended up happening to a lot of people that went up and took it, taken out, paralyzed, half their body, various problems. couple more scriptures. Job 9:24, it's establishing that point, who's in power today. So the earth is into the hand of the wicked. Who's that wicked? Speaking of, once again, Genesis 27:39-40, especially, goes into it dealing with this blessing which Esau has, which is the fatness of the earth, and also going to that sword which he's living by. Now see, the earth is in the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof, if you're not aware, and who is he? So showing you who this is speaking of, which we also brought up Malachi, done with the wicked. This is 1 Peter 5:8. It says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. And this devil wants to take you out. That's why I've seen so much crap within the food. So why we have to study the back of it, ingredients, to make sure we not putting anything unclean in our body. And even then, a bunch of names on the ingredients that you don't know what they are, things they may not even put on the ingredients. And I also brought up the point earlier, done with these poisons within the sky, within the air, done with these, I'm not even sure if I'm able to say the full word. These chemtrails, that especially used to be a conspiracy theory. I don't know how it was a so-called conspiracy theory when they're literally doing it right in front of your face. It will be a clear sky, then all of a sudden you see lines being, plastered all over the sky. Which are all in order to break down your body, to make you more susceptible, weaker to these attacks, these diseases. Unable to fight off, whatever. The water that we drink, it's just defiled. Water. Man. And I've seen this right here dealing with these ticks, these genetically modified ticks, super ticks. Some call that super ticks. That are being let loose. That's affecting animals, people. Because I made that point earlier. Came across a video where you had these huge animals, these 3 mooses that were taken out from ticks. But you could also see how this will affect farm life, which then will affect the food, people getting bitten by these ticks. It'll affect their what do they call it? I forgot the exact word, but pretty much affecting what they eat. Going without meat, which you're not people looking for solutions or anything, any way to reverse it, and this and that, and hey, just double and swooping, with a suitcase. Just think of a cartoon show where the show with the suitcase, and they open it and it's, golden light shimmering out from it. Oh look, you can go back to eating meat again, but it's gonna be 3D printed, lab grown. But once they're pushing all the so-called benefits, it's actually better. You get more protein from it. But we're speaking of Esau Edom here. What's in the wicked. But it says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Now, as I brought up that point, a few times throughout the lesson already, dealing with this devil want to depop this place, want to reduce the number of people. Now they want to reduce the number of people eating particular things. But now they got a solution for that. Here is the new thing on the menu. Actually, I won't be surprised if they start, pushing that within these fast food places. The new lab-grown chicken, hamburger. Matter of fact, they're already doing it with the Impossible Whopper, which I believe is supposed to be vegan meat. However they make that, it's definitely not food. Isaiah 30:1-3 says, woe to the rebellious children, say the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover what they covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. It's going to be verse 2. That walked to go down to Egypt, and have not asked in my mouth to strengthen themselves, and the strength of Pharaoh to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Verse 3. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust and shadow of Egypt, your confusion. So it's be your shame and confusion for trusting in this devil. You have a lot of people that's willing to look past everything this devil has done, things he's still doing to this day, things he's being exposed for, and yet it's water under the bridge for them. Not knowing this devil could not care any less about you. Matter of fact, he's doing everything he can in order to take you out, to be justified in doing so. You're not only seeing this devil doing things regarding the food, even dealing with other matters. This devil just wants any reason to take you out. That's why you see within these police body cams, videos coming out. Devil trying to get a reaction out of Jake, trying to egg him on to get a reaction. Matter of fact, you actually have this one devil. I'll probably make a lesson speak. I may or may not. This dude's the name's Chud the Builder or something. He's going around in public, yelling the N-word at Jake, the hard R, saying all these various things, calling Jake a monkey and all these other things. And he's actually, carrying a weapon on him too, and he actually threatened to use it on Jake if they get close to him. So, but you have Jake, you have this devil doing things to get Jake heated and to really just give them the ammo to be justified in taking them out. One particular case where you had that the acorn situation, if y'all remember that, and we had Jake putting handcuffs into the back of a cruiser, doors shut and everything. You had acorn, hit the top of the vehicle, and they begin to shoot at Jake in the back of the vehicle. So I just thought I'd add that point, because you all seen watching this devil doing things regarding the food and these diseases that they most definitely have a hand in. But just wants us all to spend for Yahweh Shai. And your Lord's just using this devil, to do particular things. Because once this devil has been made that point earlier, alluding to something worse than what took place back in 2020. So the Honda V could be up next. The Bird FLU could be up next. We have to see. But there's Psalm 64, and it'll be verse 2. I'll start verse 1 actually. It says, "Hear my voice, O power, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy." So I just read in Psalm 17:13, going to that, hide me from the wicked, which is thy sword. I mean, look at the things this devil is doing. So why we need the Lord? You have this devil genetically modifying animals, insects, bugs, to carry these diseases, to go out and affect the population, to affect the environment, to affect you. Because as we got earlier, this devil wants to take you out. Further going to show us how much of a terrible ruler this devil is. This is why you get in the scriptures how. Actually, get that real quick. Let's see. It's on the tip of my tongue. Try to remember it. Wicked beareth rule. Because really everything is suffering under this devil's rulership, especially the animals. As I brought up that point, once again, dealing with the mooses. This is Proverbs 29:2. It says, "When the righteous are on authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn." Tying in also another scripture dealing with how the whole creation groans and travaileth in pain together until now. So this devil needs to go. Other scriptures also go into how this devil wants to be like the Most High. That's why he has created things in order to try to alter and manipulate the weather. Made this one lesson dealing with this NASA video that came out, I want to say nearly 9 years ago, probably 10 now, and where they had this rain cloud generator creator thing to push out a cloud that emits rain. And now you have this devil behind the scenes within these labs, genetically modifying food, animals, genetically splicing things together, DNA splicing, So there's no telling what this devil's cooking up within the labs. Further to show why we need the Lord. Psalm 64 says, "Hear my voice, O power, my prayer, preserve my life from the fear of the enemy. And it says, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity. This Obadiah 1:6 says, how are things that Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? So this devil was being exposed, he's being revealed. And you saw all the information that came out on those videos that we got. Especially that last one where dude pretty much plainly said that if people don't want to stop eating meat, right, we're going to make you stop. And then they're going to swoop in with the so-called solution to solve that problem of you wanting to eat meat again. Like, here's this, on a silver platter. Bull crap. And you're going to have people eating that stuff. But once again, this also further, causing problems, because dealing with those ticks, biting these animals is obviously going to affect the food. And now people are going to be unable to eat, the meat. These animals were, how do I put it in the words? Unable to eat the meat that was affected, by these ticks. There we go. But Obadiah 1:6, one more time from my tab. How are the things that Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? And as I was bringing the point earlier, it's not the first time this devil has, caused problems dealing with the food. Because I mentioned that point dealing with that chicken farm being lit ablaze a while back. Brought the point once again dealing with the bird FLU that affected a lot more animals than just birds. I believe people were now catching the bird FLU. So I made that point earlier. Now they're genetically modifying these things, splicing DNA and things together, where now these things are now transmissible to humans. This stuff needs to go. The 2 Corinthians 11, it says, let Satan should get avenge us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Get this other point in the NLT. It says, for we are familiar with this evil scheme. So we know what this devil is playing at. Things this devil is doing. It is clear. You saw, Bill Gates behind the program for pushing these, lab-grown meat and various things, and also tied into these, ticks, genetically modifying ticks that heavily affect the eating of meat. So, it's just clear. But also how it's also going to affect, various other things. Or you have those ticks, biting these animals. Also, maybe other things that may push out. You may see more mosquitoes let loose, carrying things now. And we're in that type of time. That's why it's important to be on the hedge of protection, of Yahweh Bashmal Shah. And also brought a few points down with that order out of chaos. So you can, let's actually look that up. And I'll close it out. We're out of chaos, because I brought it a few times throughout this lesson. It says, the order of chaos is a concept representing the creation of structure from disorder, often used to describe the scientific, philosophical, or organizational systems. Let's see. Also, we're here, order of chaos. But there's a creating structure, stability, or remaining from a state of confusion, disorder, or destruction. So they were in swooping as a so-called hero to solve the problem that they ultimately had a hand in. But what's it's all due spent by Yahweh Shemir that you're seeing these things. They're just using this devil to do these particular things. But that's it right there. Lord's will lessons edifying to close out. Give all praise, honor, all glory to Yahweh Shemir Shabbat Shem Dash Shalom. See you next one. Lord's will.